and be part of the revolution. While there, sign up for the Ron Paul Revolution email list for special events and programming. We're mad as hell, and we're not going to take it anymore. Ron Paul Revolution Radio. Ron Paul Revolution Radio. RPRradio.com.
Dr. Paul is exactly the kind of president we need.
Although the president's the commander-in-chief, he doesn't declare war.
Under the Constitution, only the House of Representatives can declare war.
We've never declared a war since World War II, and we've never won a war since World War II.
I was drafted. I was sent to South Vietnam. The Americans were involved right in the middle of a civil war, very similar to where we are in Iraq. There was no peace until we were defeated, and there was no honor.
We preemptively, aggressively invaded a sovereign foreign state.
Our military is supposed to be defensive.
But it's not all for defense. Some of it's for offense. Some of it's for things that end up making us hated throughout the world.
We have embarked on things never intended by the Founding Fathers. They said, don't get involved in the internal affairs of other nations. Don't become the policeman of the world.
We should keep ourselves free and unfettered from these entangling alliances in which we become the unwitting servant of other countries and other kings.
Radio.com. RPRradio.com.
Well, she may have gone off track, but Ron Paul can bring her back. We're gonna hear that liberty whistle blow once more. $1 worth its weight in gold will help let freedom ring. And every penny that you make belongs to you. Let's bring our soldiers home and leave the other trains alone. Ron Paul Freedom Train will see us through. Ron Paul, he's the driver that freedom train, so come on board. Well, she may have gone off track, but Ron Paul can bring her back. We're gonna hear that liberty whistle.
We've been hearing it, on this show anyway, every day, many times a day. She may have gone off track, but Ron Paul can bring her back. Well, Ron Paul and you, the revolutionaries, Ron Paul and you, the people of the United States who care about the United States, who want to restore the United States, who want to bring back the Republic. And we're getting a lesson today in how to do that in the actual practical, step-by-step things that need to be mastered, that need to be learned, and they need to be executed in order to run the country. Dr. Steve Parent, your mic is live. Brandon Gray, your mic is live. Go ahead, Brandon.
Well, I wanted to say we were talking about the standing vote before we went to the break. And during our convention here in Lubbock, we had one of those for the trade corridors, okay? And it was part of a broader national sovereignty package, and almost every single one that was brought as a package, every single time it was called for a divide. Isn't that right, Dr. Parent? Is it divided?
Well, you should, because you're dividing the motion. Make sure, it's kind of like some of these bills that are passed in Congress. It means that they name it one thing, like No Child Left Behind, but when you look at it, there's, 6,000 other things in there that have nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So you should always try to divide the question if they don't pertain to one particular thing.
Okay, good. Well, see, that's what we did. And we had an amendment come in to change some of the language from the lowest versus cost-effective, and this was put in to basically say we want the most cost-effective means of construction for the trade corridors. Well, some were in favor of that, some weren't. We had a standing vote. There was 39 in favor and 40 against. So with that, it went back to the drawing board, and it was amended again to contain just the language of lowest qualified bid. It was re-voted again, and it passed afterwards. So standing votes did happen quite a bit when the ayes and nays were just blending too much. So
yeah, well, see, that happens, though, Brandon, if I might, Indy, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, please.
If you have a convention or a chairman that is really in the best interest of making sure the rules of order are followed, you'll get that. The reason I want people to be aware of these things is because if you do not have a chairman that is complying, okay, and he's just, going to do what he wants, I want everyone to know he is not the deciding factor, okay, and he can be called out. And, chairmen are out of order all the time. It's up to you to know when they're out of order so you can actually enforce the rules of order and bring your convention back to a point of order.
Okay. Well, I wanted to give an example that we did have a few of those, and it was just an interesting one because it was 39 in favor and 40 against, and those that were in favor were the actual power people in the city of Lubbock, which kind of made me feel a little good to watch the people actually kind of stand up to that group. And it was just one vote away from, I guess, becoming 40-40. Now, what happens if that was the case? If it was 40 standing for and 40 standing against, what would happen then?
Well, in most cases, the chairman does not vote unless there's a tie, and then the chairman would be the deciding vote.
Okay.
Otherwise, in the midst of a tie, it would actually be called for a revote, and you would have to vote again until you obtain, 50% plus one.
Okay.
You can never have a deadlocked motion.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Another thing that I noticed was when they gave us the opportunity to approach the microphone, they were alternating between for and against, and only gave 2 for and 2 against the chance to speak on it before a initial vote was taken, which sometimes we had lines up there, people standing up in lines, and they would only allow 2 people to speak for and 2 people to speak against, and then they'd just take a vote on it. And
well, actually, your chairman was out of order. You should have immediately called for point of order because only the first person to stand is allowed to address the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, sometimes they try to make these things go as, smooth, as quick as possible. When you see things like that going on, Brandon, you immediately need to call for a point of order.
Mm-hmm.
And go back to the original rules. they didn't suspend the rules, did they? Was there ever a call for suspension of rules?
There was a few of those. See, I'm telling you, Steve, it was very disorganized. It was chaotic to me. And there was a lot of weird talking going on behind the scenes, even while people were at the microphone, people yelling at the people at the microphone, telling them to be quiet and booing, and it was very unorganized. Sometimes there was control, but other times those that were the ones that have quote unquote been there and are active over the past decades, they didn't really were told to be quiet. So it was very disorganized.
This is why. Let me stop you because I want to address that because this is important. When someone has the floor, okay, they may not be heckled or interrupted. Okay, immediately someone needs to stand, or whoever is speaking needs to address the chairman and say, Mr. Chairman, I call for point of order. And the chairman must address that and bring order back to the floor. Okay, secondly, if it continues to happen, you need to move for the chairman to have the sergeant at arms remove this person from the building. And that is your right to do so because you may not be interrupted unless it's a call for a rising vote. Okay, there's several things that you can interrupt on, but you cannot be interrupted while you're addressing the floor and be heckled. It has to be a procedural motion to interrupt.
Well,
you understand that?
I completely understand, and that's what we figured, the group that I am involved with here, that's what we figured, but again, I saw disrespect all over the place, and it was just, as I said, it was eye-opening because, again, there was such good things that came out of it, but the actual terribleness of it was mind-boggling. I couldn't believe how some of these people acted like second graders, just mouthing off to these people saying their piece at the microphone, and a few people actually had to call point of order, but again, it was just after that it was over, and they just got to say their 2 cents really quick, and it was chaotic to me.
Well, all right, guys, I want to come back in just a second. First of all, Brandon and Steve, I'm going to ask you to judge what my